Hello, good day. Today at GLC, episode is about commandments and special strings, knots, and tassels. I'm gonna talk about various kinds of cultures, but I'm starting with Jewish, Messianic Jewish, and Christian perspectives about some things. Yeah, some things are left out by the Christians, but Messianic Jews still follow it. So, yes, yet again I start about the commandments and the mitzvot. Those are the commandments. Mitzvot is the Hebrew word for commandments. So this system is interwoven with Judaism and Messianic Judaism. So sometimes I wonder why Christians neglect the very thing that Yeshua, Jesus actually, mentioned in Matthew 5:16 to 5:18. He stated clearly in 5:17, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them." Like I said before, he didn't remove all the commandments. That is from the Brit Hashgadah, also known as the New Testament in Christian theology. But these words, Yeshua clearly states that all commandments, or the mitzvot, if you want to say that, are active. But some of them have actually dropped, because some cannot even be done anymore since the fall of the Jewish first temple and neither the second temple, especially the second temple time, and that's why nothing is able to be done again. But I've made a list for you that I'm gonna post as well in a few minutes, so I'm gonna be a little bit silent about this, so you can read silently about what I meant. In the previous video I said Adonai, God, or our Lord, however you want to name the one up high. Let me show you from the Bible. Bimidbar, which is also called Numbers. So here it says, Maftir, Adonai said Moshe, speak to the people of Israel, instructing them to make through all their generations tzitziyot of the corners of the garments, and to put with the tzitzit on each corner a blue thread. It is to be a tzitzit for you to look at and thereby remember of Adonai's mitzvot and obey them, so that you won't go around whenever your own heart and eyes led you to prostitute yourselves. But it will help you remember and obey all my mitzvot, and we are holy for your God. I am Adonai, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt in order to be your God. So here's the other page. It says, you are to make for yourself twisted cords on the four corners of your garment to wrap around to yourself. He spoke to Moses about to make tzitziyot on the corners of his garments. So you can find the link below in the descriptions that I will put some link. Let's talk about tzitziyot. Tzitziyot are plural form of tzitzit. Those are in the not obligatory commandments of the Lord, and actually those are usually neglected by most Christian sources, but they are here and there in some churches are they being used. So yes, let me talk about some of the commandments regarding kosher. Those in the listing it's said not to mix the wool and linen. Never do that. But people can wear either linen or wool, but never mixed. So keep that in mind. Never mixed is always unkosher, according to the Bible. And yes, as Adonai said to Moses, that he had to say in he said that in Deuteronomy and Numbers. So there is a system about tzitziyot. It's not always a clear thing about how many strings are being used or the color of the gelet. But in a gematria, let's say a numerical value of 613, sorry. It says, with all the knots, etc., it says the word tzitzit. That equals the number 600. So you already have 600 of the commandments in there. So there's a series of 5 and 8 knots that both together it equals to 613. So what is this made of? Well, the colors are usually made white or techelet, blue. But what can you use? It's said to be used that you can use wool. That's actually one of the most used, but I believe that cotton is also kosher. and it's not mixed. You cannot mix them when you make them. So, techelet. Well, the techelet comes from a hilazon, or a gilazon. The gilazon is a creature that actually disappeared for a long time and should reappear in the times of the Messiah to come. But there's various kind of things to talk about this. So at the moment, people have found a place in Israel where they found shells of the Murex trunculus. So that's a snail from the sea. And the blood of that animal they use to make strings of techelet. But there are also other kind of animals that have blue blood. So there's also an ancient animal that's called a horseshoe crab. Many actually might think that it could also be the horseshoe crab, but nothing has been found from the horseshoe crabs around Israel or whatever. So the Murex trunculus is still valid for today to make the techelet cords for the tzitziyot. So when people start to make all the knots, not specifically at the time when they make the tzitziyot, they have to, with intention, meditate on it, to be with God, and pray the Aaronic blessing. Usually the Aaronic blessing is being done when the tzitziyot are put on the four corners of the garment. You have to do it in a kind of meditative state with the Lord, yeah. So yeah, I believe that making them and doing the Aaronic blessing is also valid, but when the tzitziyot are attached, then the mitzvot or commandment is completed, as the Jewish or the Messianic Jewish would say that it has to be. Well, there is the Talit Katan and Talit Gadol. Well, let me talk about the Talit Katan. Talit Katan, that is actually a small prayer scarf that you lay on your head. When you do your prayers, and on these scarves, there are actually on the four corners, there you add tzitziyot, or on a Talit Gadol. Talit Gadol is the big one. But Talit Katan, well, those are worn by the Jewish people, and they are usually worn all day. Some people call it a sheet in disrespect. So, and they make jokes about it because they do not understand why the Jewish people wear them. But yes, of course, Judaism and Messianic Judaism are totally different, because Messianic Judaism, of course, follows Yeshua or Jesus, just like the Christian people do as well. So, yeah, about the Messianic people, and maybe sometimes even Christians, actually. Messianic people usually wear the tzitziyot just on belt loops, because belt loops can also be considered corners of garments because they are on the right place, so you can wear them also up there if you want to wear them, because it's not obliged. Yeah, it's not obligatory to wear tzitziyot. But one of the rules is also you cannot sleep in your talit katan because of the attached tzitziyot, but perhaps also other reasons. So when you sleep with your talit katan, you actually have to do the morning prayer, the Shema. So, well, there are also other things that could be considered unkosher, and it's like tzitzit with metal clasps. Online, I'm following actually Messianic videos of MTOI and live streams from them, but also I follow the Dutch streams and videos. So yeah, what are other reasons that the strings are becoming unkosher? Well, there are string tear laws. Like, for example, if one of the 8 strings is ripped off entirely, the tzitzit are actually still kosher. But if a second one is ripped completely off, the tzitzit may not be kosher, depending on various factors. So if 3 strands rip, it may not be kosher, even if they are not ripped off completely. So you have to buy new ones, or you have to make new ones. So there are discussions about if it's obligatory or not, according a lot of sources. So yeah. So if you buy them, be aware of all these rules and whatever that I just mentioned in this video. Also, if you want to make your own tzitziyot, have a look in the description. I will give a link to MTOI, where you can also have an instruction video to see how these are made. So if you want to make them, I wish you luck with making them as well. So hereby, like I said, I wish you luck making them. Okay, before I forget, I wanted to tell you, most of these rules that I just told you about for making tzitziyot, etc., are from the Jewish halakha. That's the Jewish law. But how they are made does not specifically specify for Messianic Jews, or neither to Christians, because these rules are not mentioned in the Torah or Old Testament, so to say. So that's one thing to be clear about. Well, let's say there is a kind of new kind of tradition in. It started in USA actually. It's they call it a God's knot, which means there are three kinds of thread. There's a purple, a gold, and a white. They use these in marriages, and it represents that the bride and groom are married together to God. So it's a trinity. So marriage is a holy thing, and that's basically what they try to say. Okay, what does the gold stand for? The gold one represents God. Purple strand represents the groom. The white strand, the bride. They base it on Ecclesiastes 4:12. That's what I meant. That's what they are referring to. So, in Ecclesiastes 12 it says, though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. And that God performs a miracle in the marriage, so it unites the being together in the covenant with Him as one. So that stands for the sacred union created on the wedding day, according to this new tradition. But let me tell you also where I also heard about tying the knots in marriages. Actually, in India. But I come to that later. So, in Europe, actually, in old paganism in the 17th century, it was done by Germanic people, the English, Scottish, and Norse people, and eventually it became revived in neo-paganism. What it stands for is like it's a temporary, unofficial wedding actually. So you can make a vow, after half a year you can make another vow, and if that 2 times after those 2 vows you can get 1 year vow, but after that it actually kind of means that you have to get married. That's how hand fasting in Europe has been done. So it's they say it's a pre-Christian practice that's wrapping and fasting the hands of both the people in the couple together. That makes a special bond with those who get hand fasted. Well, it's like a contract from the late Old English. Yeah. So that's kind of what happened in Christianity and in paganism as well. But I'll tell you later about India, about the marriages over there. It's just like similar to hand fasting here in Europe. It's also used as a thread, and it's also considered holy. Well, the next upcoming things are actually from India and Southeast Asia. Let me tell you about Dharmic religions a little bit. Dharmic religions is like Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan Dharma is also known as Hinduism. And later also came Buddhism and Jainism. And those are considered different type of religion actually. Those have not to do with gods, but they have a very good standard and practices to view how about life and about ethics. That's basically Buddhism and Jainism in my opinion, but you may think differently about all of them, but that's okay. I'm not here to mock any kind of religion, as I told before. And I'm not here to blaspheme any kind of other religion. But, yeah, I think at all of the times we can still learn from one another to understand here and there different things. So yes, Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, they also have holy threads in them, and even Persia, ancient Persia, they have Zoroastranism, the religion of Zoroaster or Zartoosht in the native tongue of the Persian people. But yes, for example, in Buddhism, in Southeast Asia, especially Thailand, they have a sin, which is actually also cotton thread, which you can see at temples and whatever, connected to different kind of statues and connected to Buddha, always connected to the Buddha and to the highest point there can be. That actually means that it's holy thread because it connects you to Buddha directly, so you would easily understand more of the teachings of the Buddha. And one of the teachings is part of the Tripitaka. Tripitaka is the Buddha, the Sangha. The Sangha is the people, the followers of the Lord Buddha. Plus, actually, they also say that the Sangha is actually the Buddhist monks. That's here and there a discussion point, but that's a different thing. And the scriptures. So the scriptures and Sangha and Buddha are actually the Tripitaka. And when you connect it to the highest point, it also connects to the teachings of Dharma. It means, I would say, maybe to explain it in a way, it's not specifically how I say it, but to have an imagine how it can be. Karma is more like do good and you get good, do bad and you get bad back. That's the law of nature, and that's a cosmic thing. So you could say it's God. So when you do bad, you get punished by God. When you do good, you get a reward by God. That's kind of how you can interpret Dharma. For Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism, it's kind of Dharma is kind of how to say, it's a kind of different teaching than Judaism, Messianic Judaism and Christianity actually. So yeah, well, there is more to tell about the threads, and yeah, these saishin, they can also be used for weddings, because in ceremonies, these ceremonies are usually when the bride and groom, they get a loop on top of their head like a crown, and there's a whole ceremony covering that. And sometimes during the ceremony you see a full grid in temples that connects you to the Buddha, so that the Buddha also blesses you. But it's not only for weddings, it's also for funeral ceremonies. But also people can wear as bracelets these saishin. Friends and family usually tie the saishin bracelets around the wrist of the newlywed people. And at funerals, the white threads are usually 3 times wrapped around the crematorium, where the deceased is, to wish good luck for and protection for the next life. So that's basically what it's been used for. If you ever get someone to tie you saishin around your wrist by someone, never refuse it, because it's considered impolite if you're a foreigner or whatever where you're from. So when someone does it, you can just you can just let the person apply it to you, to your wrist, and yeah, it's point of hospitality and accepted for grace, with grace. So yeah, that's basically the saishin, the white cotton thread for the Buddhist. And yeah, I have to talk more about the Hindus also, to the holy threads for the Hindus, and actually I'm going to talk about the Jain as well, because the Jain also use this kind of thread. It's called a kautaka or a mauli. It's a protective thread that wards off evil from anyone who wears it. It's usually red of color with yellowish mixed with it, and usually in India or Nepal, actually, I think as well, there's knots in amulets, and amulets, I mean, and in Jainism these knots are so significant when they make the knots. The Jain people believe that when they tie a knot, they get the blessing from the deity they mention when making knot in it. And the jain wear it around the neck, or sometimes they roll it up in some little bit of fabric that has been blessed by a Jain mendicant by chanting mantras at the same time when doing that. So it's like a blessed amulet at that moment. And the Jains, they call this amulet or threads, when they wear it, they call it Rakshaputli. Rakshaputli, I mean. So, yes, like I said, the kautuka is mainly a thread. The practices of and use of the Patisara and Kautuka appear in the Vedic texts in the Atharva Veda, Samhita, section 211. And in the old times, actually, there were also combinations of the Mauli, red and black. So it's like a dual function to drive away enemies, and it's binding the bonds with the bride and groom with him. Coming from the Vedas actually, and that's 10.58.28 of the Rig Vedas. And that's the Vedas is not a Jain literature. The Rig Vedas are from the Hindus, so that's where the Mauli is also for the Jain Hindus. So when often they are sometimes tied to ritual objects. For example, to shivlings. You actually have the yoni. That's kind of like a base. And there's the shivling. If you don't know what it is, it's looking like a phallus or an egg that's on top of it. And they tie it with red and gold or saffron hued colors on it. There's also, like I told you, there's marital rituals. And in South India, for example, the priest ties the Mauli to the groom, and at the same time the groom is actually also tying the same thread of the Mauli to his bride. So when it's worn around the wrists, for men it's always at the right side, and for ladies it's at the left arm side. So also the colors, red is in the state of Mahashastra. Red is usually it means also to be near to Vishnu, and for women it's like the goddess Lakshmi. There's more chords than just the Kautuka or the Mauli. So it's not just a protective thread, it's also for marriage, like I told you. So there's another ritualistic thread. As you know, India is actually built out for a different kind of caste scenario. We have 4 castes. You have Brahmins, and with Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, plus the Dalit. The Dalit are oppressed people, and well, they actually do not count for having and using this kind of thread, what I'm going to talk about. So the thread I'm going to talk about is actually most likely and most honorable for Brahmin. Those are on the top shelf of the caste. They are well educated, most likely priests. Well, they have to become priests because they go to special schools, and it is in India and Nepal. But the ceremony sometimes for the Yakyapotiva or Janewo is it differs by country and area. And the ceremony also goes by various names, different. In Hindi, it's different than from Sanskrit or other languages that's spoken in India or Nepal. So what is the Janeo? It's actually there are 3 threads that's given from a teacher or guru, if you want to call it. It's handed over in a specific way to the child Brahmin. It is said that the Brahmins have to do this at the age of 11, or no, not 11, at the age of 8. What are the Brahmins actually doing? Well, teachers draws the child to knowledge, and he is educating the kid till he learns just writing or numbers, reading, Vandegas, arts and skills from Vedic, from the Vedas and Upanishads and science of architecture. And thus initiation is, well, initiation, the family is always present when the teacher gives it to the student, like I said before. And it is believed that the boy or young kid cannot be surmised as a dvija, that means twice born, until he wears the janu. Who wears janu? It's actually every Brahmin kid or person that wears it from the age of 8, or they can start from becoming schooled at the age of 5 even, for Vedic texts. The ritual, it also means that the ritual and the teachings is actually a way from becoming a boy to an adult with a lot of knowledge about all of this. Upanayanam, samskara thread. That's for the ceremonial thread. It is usually given between 7 and age of 14. So if that doesn't happen, then it has to be done at least before the age of 16 or before marriage. But most likely it has to be before the age of 16. Well, one other thing. Is it only Brahmins that wear the threads? No. It's not only Brahmins, it's also the Kshatriyas. They are initiated around the age of 11. And the Vaishyas, another case, they get initiated around the age of 12. So that's most likely what they have to be. What does this whole initiation mean? It means to become enlightened. So that actually means a lot of knowledge and become closer to God or gods or whatever God they worship. There is a difference in the threads also. Like I said, the Brahmins, they usually wear the threads that are made of cotton. So the Kshatriya and Vaishya case, they wear only hemp or wool versions of the threads. And the threads, they are always twisted upwards. When the initiation takes place, it's always when the family is with the one being initiated. So, and the initiated one and the family and the ones surrounding are doing a group chant of the Gayatri mantra. So once the person has been initiated, they can fully do all of the family rituals together. There are special rules for occasions, for how and when to wear them. We have the left shoulder. This is actually basically the normal way to wear the thread, because it's it's most important to wear the thread on auspicious days and ceremonies at that moment. But on the right shoulder, it's actually worn on inauspicious days according to Vedic and Hindu astrology. They do a lot with astrology and such. So, and there's also worn on the neck, and that is actually garland. They also call the garland niviti at the moment, so the garland is okay also. But women, yes, women also wear them, but yeah, especially in the old days, women used to wear them more often than nowadays. And yeah, it's still here and there that the women actually still wear them, but it's not too common like the olden days. Well, when there's a birth or death by a person, it is considered unkosher to wear your thread. So you take it off for about 15 days and you replace it for a completely new one. And you also replace it when your threads are completely broken. For keeping it kosher or clean, however you want to call it, the people, the Brahmin, Kshastra, and the other one, when they want to keep the holy thread clean, they put it behind the right ear for when they have sexual intercourse or have anything to do on the toilet. So there's another thing what I wanted to tell you about the strings. The representations of the three strings, what they could mean. There are various kinds of ways for the interpretations. The most logical one is the Ida, the Pinangala, and the Susumana Nadi, which is actually what has to do with Kundalini, a hidden energy that reveals prana and realization. Prana is actually the energy in your body. You can also call it ki. I bet people have more about ki than prana, but actually it's the same. It's the same term for the same thing. It's your life energy that lives in you. So, and some say it is the heaven, the earth, and the nether regions, like hell. Or in Hindu terms, it's Swarga, Mrityuloka, and Pataloka. But others say it's for three qualities: Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Or it's about three states of the mind. It's wakefulness, dream, and deep sleep. Well, I like this one also. It's past, present, and future. And often it's also been said for Brahmins mainly that it stands for the Hindu Trinity: Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. Mahesh is another name for Shiva, if you don't know who Shiva is. So look up some of the gods to be more known with them. So, or to the female goddesses, Mahasaraswati, Mahalakshmi, and Mahakali. More about the knots for the Brahmins. When the Brahmins have knots, they have just 3 knots in their threads. So if they do priestly work, they tie 3 extra knots to it, and when Vaishya Vaishna is initiated, they only have 1 knot. But if they when they get married, the strands actually doubles from 3 to 6, so they get 6 threads instead of 3. for the Brahmin, they get probably 5 knots eventually. That's all I want to tell you for the Janeu threads. In Colombia, there are the Kogi people. I think a lot of them, or a lot of you people, have never heard about it, but they have something interesting to say. In 2 documentaries they have. One of them, I don't really remember the title of it, but the second documentary is called Aluna. Well, they take golden strings. They have them specially made in the UK, and the mama is actually like a village elder, like a medicine man or whatever you want to call this person. And they want to show you in this documentary what interconnections is about the effect of modern society with our nature. So think about deforestation and other kinds of damages we do as a Western kind of civilization. So these mamas, they call us the Western society younger brother. Well, they say we do not understand the things, how nature works. That's what it comes to. And that we destroy the environment. And their knowledge goes from mama to mama over all the generations in their lives. So they take a golden spun thread, like I said, they take it all the way along a river to show where damage has been done by modern societies. Yeah, and they asked for a video maker to join them to tell their story. Well, they come with well substantiated sciences, and they try to tell us about the consequences that we as a Western society are doing. But what are they talking about? You can compare, let's see, the globe is a grid with webs. If you take one string out, that's one damage. Another string, another string, another string. Like the ozone layer is being pulled and pulled and damaged and damaged. So, but at the same time we block these energies from the sun, also from the sun. But everything in nature has energies, and you can compare to Feng Shui. So let me go back to the river. They took these strings for 400 kilometers or 250 miles to show what is happening with all this stuff. So if you have interest in watching this documentary, go watch Aluna and try to find it online. I'm not sure if it's on YouTube, But if you do find it, have a look at it. There are things in there that are actually stunning to see. They come with knowledge, but we, as modern science, are beginning to grasp right now Zoroastranism, or the religion of Zartoosht. Yes, let me tell you something a little bit about that. It started all in Avestan, which is actually the very first name of Persia. Persia became its second name of the land, and the third name is actually Iran. Many Islamic people invaded into Persia and persecuted all the followers of Zoroastrianism. They had to leave to India, and there is a select group that still live up there, and they are called Parsis. They're not Farsis. Farsi is the language of Persia, actually. So, of Iran. So this is a small little history, and well, this is kind of Sudrapushi. It's in Farsi language, actually, and it's the name of the ritual they do to initiate boys to the religion, to Zoroastrianism. And yeah, they have to recite prayers from the ancient language, which consists of two versions of Avestan. It's young and old Avestan. And just like Hindus, they can be initiated around the age of 7, because then around the age of 7 they can comprehend a little bit of things about what's going on in their religion. So, but the initiation always has to be happening before hitting puberty for the little guys, or little girls even. So both genders also get initiations done. Well, now I'm coming to the thread. The thread is called a kushti. Well, it differs a little bit from Hinduism. Instead of like the Brahmins have it over the shoulders, the followers of Zartoosht, they have to wear it like a belt, and over that they have to wear a sacred t-shirt or shirt, or however you want to call it. At least it's called a sacred. It's a sacred thing for them. So the thread is never worn on the neck or the shoulders, and people have to wear them all their life, so till they die. So, well, they actually have some specifications also to take the threads off, the kushti. Well, that's when they get wet, so a shower, or they have to take it off just before having a meal and put it back on after a meal, and they take it off when they are doing prayers. But for the initiation, they also have to go through some kind of bar mitzvah, or how you call it, baptize for Christian terms. So they have to go down the water and rinse themselves off, and then things are given to the priest to fulfill the ceremony. They give rice and kind of grains and other kind of things. And then the priest throw it for prosperity. And the ceremony actually consists of 3 parts. They have to at least be in the presence of the fire on the altar. They call it that is happening in a public place. But one thing, people that are not Zoroastrians are not allowed to go to the fire. They cannot see even the fire because it's considered holy. So if I'm not a follower, I cannot enter there and see the fire or whatever rituals they are doing. They have to recite different things. Then the person that's getting initiated has to be seated, and all the garlands, he gets all garlands, and well, they have to recite a lot of more things for blessings and more wishes. And people who do not have the naviote, that is actually the Gujarati name for this ritual, for initiation. So they are considered to be churd. That's some term that they are not initiated. And then they become a member of the Zoroastrian community. There's something biblical, and it's more of a custom than actually a holy thing. It's mentioned in the Bible in Genesis 38, verse 27 to 30. You will see on screen what it's saying about, and as you see, it's more like a modern trend that kind of started in the early 1900s, and around Israel, and it's outside Israel, it's happening kind of like late 1990s. So actually a lot of people started to wear them, from Jewish to non-Jewish people to celebrities. All over the world, people started wearing them. So this is actually not a holy practice to have a red, crimson, string attached to your left wrist. So having it on your left wrist is more like biblical Judaistic and Christian thing, actually. But it's just a custom, but it's not something special. It's kind of like an evil eye to ward off evil. It's thought to be associated with Kaballah, actually. But when people have this thread, it's usually a thin scarlet or a just red thread around the left wrist, like I said. So it's more like receiving the spiritual body when you have knotted 7 times this while saying the Kabbalah bracelet prayer, actually. I don't know what it is, but maybe it's something interesting for you guys to look into. So therefore all the Jewish and Christian customs kind of have been cleared right now in this session. Kind of brief to the beginning of the video, because I told there many things about the tzitziyot, etc. So it's yeah, I actually hope you enjoyed the entire video. It's been a long listening thing, and yeah, may God bless you. Have a good day or evening, or wherever you're from and what time it is. Bless you. Signing off, this is JLC.